It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor.
Okay, Decatur, it's 9 o'clock, and it's time to meet your neighbor right here on Voices of Decatur with your host, Mike Johnson.
Thank you very much. Welcome to another edition of Meet Your Neighbor right here on Decatur FM. Before I go into tonight's interview, which is going to be, by the way, an amazing conversation, so I hope you are ready, locked, and loaded. Can I say thank you to the weather that we've been having?
Unbelievable.
You know what I mean? Like, what was it? Was it Groundhog Day recently? And he didn't see his shadow.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And it didn't help that he was it was cloudy out. So you know what I mean? So I don't know if that would work in our favor, but man, what a
it is working.
What a day, what a weekend. Everybody was out.
Oh man, it's so great.
Man, it's been crazy. David Naugle is in the building. What's up? What's up? Welcome to Decatur FM, brother. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation.
Absolutely.
And it's crazy, man, because we got a good friend. Just to protect the innocent, I'm just gonna say his first name. Our buddy Pete connected us on email.
We'll call him Pete.
We'll call him Pete. I have other names for him, but I'm not gonna say it right now. And then like we were talking on email, and then just out the blue, I was over at Oakhurst Market coming out, and you spotted me, and we chatted for a real quick second. It was cold as I don't know what. Like it was completely opposite of what it was today.
Yep.
Right? It was freezing, and we're like, yeah, we need to connect. You know what I mean? So I'm glad we did. And the crazy part about it is, like, you live right down the street.
We literally live on the same street.
You know what I mean?
Probably not even half a mile away from each other.
How long you been living in Decatur?
Oh man, we moved back here from New York about 13 and a half years ago. Yeah.
And you've been living down there?
Right down there.
See?
Came straight from New York to right down there.
And that's the reason why we created, Decatur FM, Meet Your Neighbor, for that very reason. The fact that we have neighbors in this town, man, and they're doing like such amazing things, and they have such great stories. Just sitting here and chatting with them and just having these conversations, trying to figure out how to make our lives better. That's what this is all about, right?
Totally.
So, so let's get down to it, and let's talk about you. Let's talk about some of the great projects and stories that you have.
Oh man.
Right?
Okay.
And you know what the funny thing is, like, I've been thinking about this like for the past couple of days. I was just like how do I intro this? Like, how do we get into the conversation of who you are, what you do? Let's start with that.
Man.
You are a local-based photographer, director, content creator.
Sure. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
You have a studio called R&D Studios.
R&D Studios.
Right.
Yep, in Avondale Estates.
In Avondale Estates.
Yep.
You live right here in Decatur. You've been living here, obviously, we just heard, about 13, 14 years ago.
Yep.
Right? Let's rewind before that, though. All right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about this. So, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to get you into this,
Sure,
to get into this conversation, because so do we start with talking about the movie? Or
we can do that. What's funny about it is we can talk about that. So that's probably, some of the reason why we connected. But I'm from Atlanta, Georgia.
Right.
I mean, I was born at Crawford Long Hospital,
Right.
5 or 6 miles from here.
You know about Crawford Long, by the way?
A little bit.
Do you know who he was?
A little bit.
Do you know who he was?
No.
No? He's the first anesthesiologist.
That's right. That's
ever.
right. I was going to say something with polio, but that was not.
Close enough. But I always try to stump people that are like straight AT aliens. Like, did you know who he was? You know what I mean?
I blew it.
But anyway,
But
you're all right.
Hardly anybody knows where Crawford Long is now because it's an Emory.
Emory.
Yeah. It's
There
all
it
Emory.
is.
It's
Yeah.
all Emory.
So you were here. You left.
Yep.
Right. While you were gone.
While I was gone, I met somebody, and I've done this before, kind of, not to this scale,
Right.
per se,
Right.
But I just introduced myself to this guy, and it's funny how it took me going away and living in rural, the Hudson Valley, population less than 300 at the time,
50. Yeah.
to meet somebody, and then tell their story, share their story. It gets seen by other people, and then I'm right back at square one. Talking about it.
And I think what's great about the story, and for those of you who don't know, let's just put it out there. Like,
Sure.
So the movie is Welcome to Marwen,
Correct.
right? Based off of a documentary that was called
Marwencol.
Marwencol, right? And it's based off of a character, right? His name is Mark
Hogancamp.
Hogancamp, and
Correct.
you met Mark while you were away.
I did.
Explain to me why and what caught your eye about meeting Mark. Like you'd seen him,
Sure.
a couple times around. I mean,
Yeah.
you're in a small town, right?
Right.
So you see him. What is it? Take me through that.
Sure. So in upstate New York, you know, where we were in the wintertime, I mean, everything shuts down. All the people that have places up there, that have their, you know, other homes in New York City,
Right.
you know, they've already shut their doors. All the dairy bars closed. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like the whole tourism really stops.
Yeah.
I mean, and so we're in this super rural area. We weren't anticipating that. And
Yeah.
so I would see Mark walking down the street and dressed in like World War II regalia, like this big coat, or be on his mountain bike with some army boots on and
Yeah.
a helmet.
Yeah.
And you know, I just didn't see anybody. Like nobody ever went down our street. And then I said, that's an interesting character. I'd like to chat him up sometime.
Yeah.
And then I would see him around the local food stop, you know, like a little bodega, buying cigarettes. And then sometimes I would see him sitting on the shore of this little river that we lived on, you know, and just looking out in the water. And so I finally decided I was going to figure out what was going on and have a conversation with him.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you did, you first of all he had said nobody has ever really come up to me and talked to me and shown interest. Like he thought that was different.
Yeah.
Right.
And was very guarded and protective about it,
Right.
as he should be.
Right.
You know, but I sort of have a fascination or a curiosity about talking to folks. And you know, I would see him the time before I talked to him. I saw him pulling this Jeep, you know, and I thought he was like a remote control guy. You know, it's like he's got this cool remote control Jeep.
Yeah.
And then so I basically loaded my camera and did it like kind of like a drive-by and
Just a whole bunch of shots,
did
like a
few
burst.
frames,
a burst.
like burst mode,
Yeah.
and then I pulled over and I'm looking at him, zooming in.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm like, it's just like a 1/6 scale. It's like a G.I. Joe Jeep, and he's pulling it with this little stick and a string. And then I was like, I got to talk to this guy.
Right. So when you sat down and you actually got into the conversation with him, what did you find out? Like, how did you develop it's a friendship,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. You know, again, I'll say it was a big trust thing. And I think he felt like the questions I was asking about how many miles are on the Jeep, you know, because I'd seen him pulling it before.
Right.
And he's like, well, if you convert it to 1/6 scale, it's, you know, it's 58 miles, but if you convert it, it's probably going to be, you know, 640 or something,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, he had it
Yeah.
all figured out and all documented.
Right.
And there were some characters in the Jeep, you know, there's some dolls in the Jeep. And he says, you know, the people that are actually in the Jeep are people I know. They're based on characters. They're characters based on people I know that I work with, my friends and family. And, you know, and I take pictures of them, and because, you know, people I work with don't believe the likeness and how realistic they are.
Right.
So I take these photos and I show it to him, and that was, I was like, please tell me more. And then, you know, as I asked more questions, he was willing to, and this is all just on the side of the road.
Right.
And I showed some interest in the photos, and he said, I tell you what, I'll drop off some photos with you to show you, kind of just to see how realistic they are, because I couldn't believe how nothing was painted to look old.
Right.
Like, you want to have real miles on it, and everything needed to have this feeling of like authenticity.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to show you.
Oh yeah, please.
For the first
You
time.
can show them too on the camera.
You know,
yeah.
I've never shown anybody these
Oh,
photos.
okay. Wow.
I mean, I've showed.
Exclusive.
So I shared these with a magazine that I worked with.
Okay.
I did a piece on, but these are the literal photos that he dropped in
Are
my.
you serious?
Yeah. So this is, all these photos
Put it
were
right in front. Yeah.
were in this envelope, and it says, "Dave, this is my world, Mark." And it says,
Wow.
"Make sure you read the backs of the photos."
Okay.
And so, to give you some context, not to get too granular, and
I think you got to show it right.
yeah, are we close?
Yeah. There you go. Is that good, G? People can see. Yeah.
Is
Good.
there any glare?
No glare.
Oh,
No,
there we
no
go.
glare.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
That's awesome.
So I'm just going to quickly go through
Yeah.
these. I'm not going to read the backs.
Right.
But I mean,
Look at that one.
Okay,
Holy
so
smokes, that
first
looks
of
like a
all-
real person.
all right. So this is a German sniper,
Okay.
and so what makes this incredible, from a fine art perspective, from a photographer's perspective, or from any perspective, is that he actually would get down to the eye level as if you're a cinematographer, you know,
Right.
shooting a scene.
Right.
And the way most of these images were gestured. And he just shot this on a broken. He shot this on a broken film camera, Pentax K1000. Wow. The light meter didn't work. he would mail these away, mail away the film, get them back, and they'd be all overexposed, and he'd just have to shoot them over again or underexposed.
Yeah, no digital, no nothing. Like,
I mean, all for the sake of taking this to the restaurant he worked at and like, look how realistic that is.
can I see that?
Yeah, man.
Holy smoke. Holy smoke. You can't tell me this isn't real.
So that's what sort of blew me away, is the fact that, I mean, the gestures, I mean, it's lots of happy accidents. Like, he's shooting with a depth of field
Yeah.
that is basically not showing that this looks like a Quonset hut or an army barrack in the background, but it's just it's a mobile home in the background, but you can't tell that.
Smoke. That's awesome, man. So
hold on.
Yeah.
He drops this bomb in my mailbox.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, where does this guy live? I cannot wait to see him again. And I'm so excited. In the meantime, I've shared these photos with an editor friend of mine who runs a magazine.
Right.
And I was like, there is an amazing story here. Just these images alone tell such a great story.
These dolls look real.
Yeah.
So let's tell the story about what happened to him. Let's kind of reverse.
Sure.
Go in reverse, and then we'll come forward, right?
Yep.
So right around, what was it, in 2000?
2000, yeah.
April of 2000.
Yeah.
He was leaving a bar.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he was at a bar. He was drinking.
Yep.
Right? And he had some conversations with some youngsters
Sure.
in the bar, in which, in that conversation, something came up along the lines of him wearing women's shoes.
Yep.
Right? Not to get too deep into it. He left the bar. I guess he had a lot to drink.
Sure did.
Very, very drunk.
Yeah.
And these guys pretty much assaulted him.
Yeah. Five guys followed him outside and came up and just blindsided him from behind.
And just really did so much damage that it affected some brain damage.
Yeah, they fractured the whole side of his face. I mean, one of his eyes came out. They had to scrape out part of the skull to put the eye back in, and enormous memory loss. He had no idea what had happened, or not even exactly what he had said.
In a coma for 9 days.
In a coma.
Came out of the coma,
mm-hmm.
and really had to learn how to function again.
Had to do everything. Yeah,
Right?
Had to feed himself, dress himself, use the bathroom.
Had to learn it from scratch.
Yep.
The only thing that really, and from what I understand, he actually regained a lot of that. The only thing that really didn't come back was memory.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he had no idea that he was married. He had no idea who he was. He had no idea what happened. Everything that he could base it on was what everybody else was telling him.
Absolutely.
Right?
And some pretty extensive journal entries. He kept journals.
Correct. Which
Yeah.
we'll get into that in a
Mm-hmm.
second. But so, and just kind of get to when you guys met. So he goes through this whole ordeal, doesn't come out of it, but he's struggling through it.
Yeah.
Obviously, the great country that we live in only allows you but certain amount of time for
Mhm.
rehabilitation and insurance.
30 days or
Right.
something. Yeah.
So here he is, 30 days is up, still, nowhere close to being healed again.
Sure.
Right? So figures, I'm going to heal myself. I'm going
Mhm.
to create my own therapy. I'm going to build back my memory, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Or, you know what? I'm going to start from scratch.
Hey, start fresh.
Let me start life from scratch.
Yeah.
Right? So, this has happened. So he builds this imaginary world. So, because I was watching clips from the movie, and he talks about, well, you know what? The first thing I have to work on to, building myself up is my imagination.
The creativity.
Right?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
he creates this world. The era in the world that he created is World War II.
Mm-hmm.
Marwencol is the name of the city, and it's based in Belgium.
It's a little Belgium village.
Right?
Yeah.
And all this is being done in his backyard.
Yeah, he's built a good bit of that. He's built a church, a bank, a hospital, and a bar.
Right.
1/6 scale on the side of his house. Actually, one of the bars is actually inside his house,
Oh, wow. Okay.
and that has a very specific purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
So he does this in efforts to go through his form of therapy, okay, if you would.
Yeah.
And as he's doing this, none of the stuff that he had, he pretty much didn't have the money to build this stuff. It was just secondhand parts that he would find, just, scraps here, scraps there. Now that he does it, people obviously
Sure.
donate to the cause.
Right.
But starting off, he actually just, whatever he could find, he built this amazing world. So here you have somebody who essentially is broken, right? Trying to heal.
Yeah.
You guys meet, right? Do you see that brokenness, if you would, in him?
I did. I saw a person who was, first of all, appreciative that I pulled over to stop, to talk to him, to show any interest, to care, and to also be really interested in what he's kind of doing, like what his world looked like and why he does it. And this was before I really knew of the whole extent of, how bad the trauma was.
Right.
So
you approached, obviously, like you said, with caution, right?
Yeah.
What was the friendship like?
Well, unfortunately around that time, not unfortunately,
Right.
strike that,
Right.
we started a family. So my wife was pregnant, and our daughter was born pretty early, and so she was actually at a hospital 75 miles away. So
Okay.
doing lots of commuting back and forth, going
Yeah.
to the NICU. And so it was right around like we just got her home, and she was still way early. She was born premature, and she was healthy. Everything's fine now. And it was kind of a tumultuous. I mean, it's a pretty tricky time. Like I needed to be home for my wife and my daughter,
Sure.
and working and things like that. And then there I have Mark, who's sort of like, "Hey, when you gonna come hang out with me?" And so
Right.
juggling a lot. So I just kind of hung out with him when I could.
He lived on his own?
He did.
He did. Okay. All right. Cool. So he lives on his own. You guys hang out, right? At what point do you see like this is some real talent? Like you see the Jeep when you first, when you guys first met, you did your shots and you analyzed it and saw it's this 1/6 scale G.I. Joe type of cool thing. But then he takes you to his place and you see this.
Oh man.
What's your, like, where do you go from? Is it jaw dropping?
Pretty much. And I'll admit, like, I had the photos in my possession. I still hadn't seen him. Like, I don't know where he lived. I had to wait to see him walking down the street again to say, "Mark, oh my God, these are amazing.
Right.
I want to see Marwencol. Tell me all about it." And I'm, hyper analyzing all these photos. Like, God, where could it be? Is this outside? And some of these look like they're blatantly inside because they're shot with tungsten light. Could not wait to see it.
Right. You see that stuff. What do you think about a person like their imagination? It's just like I am so astounded by just what he went through and what he did. You know what I mean? And it's just like if he lost, like, did he lose something and gain something else from it? As he started over, and where the imagination went and why his imagination went in that direction. Like why Belgium? Why World War II? You know what I mean? What demons did he have? Like there's a lot of cool things that he said throughout some clips and interviews that I've seen. He said one of the things that he said was we all have this alter ego-ish type where we do things in this other part of our life that's great. You know what I mean? So he has his imagination just went crazy.
Sure.
And what I love about your connection, man, is the fact that you saw that need for a human connection, right? And then within that, like this guy has like just this amazing boast of creativity. You know what I mean? What made you want to expose that for him? Like what?
Well, that was a really kind of a tricky situation because here's a person who needs a friend and needed someone to just hear him talk it out.
Yeah.
And he's getting better. And hey, check out what I did. Look at Marwencol now.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'm like, there's so much beauty in here. Like, I just instantly I want to share it, but I also want to protect him. Like this is his therapy. This is his rehabilitation. I don't want to make a spectacle out of it.
Right.
But I did know there were some art outlets where it would become appreciated and not just taken to a commercial aspect.
So when you approached your colleagues about it, were they open to it? Were they amazed by it?
They were. Most specifically is a guy named Todd Lippy, who was the editor of Asopus magazine, and he'd been running it for a while, and it's amazing art, like all kinds of mixed media, multifaceted talents and found things and all different kinds of performers, and I just knew it was right up his alley too.
Right.
And I just wanted him to meet him just because he's such a great guy too. And so when I showed him these photos, he was like, "Oh man, this is so great. I'd love to meet him. I think you should, see if you can interview him and just ask him about his story.
Uh-huh.
And so basically that's what I did. I recorded a conversation we had for a couple of hours, just him telling me everything. And I shot some photos of him, shot some photos of Marwencol.
For those of you who don't understand like what he went through, I'm gonna play a clip for you real quick of, once he got out of the hospital, came out of the coma, like how he was trying to figure out who he was. This is Mark himself explaining. Take a listen to this. It's crazy. Hold on a second. Here we go.
I started to ask questions because I didn't know who I was. I had to ask other people, what was I like? Was I a bad guy? Was I mean? And they would tell me, no, you weren't mean. You're just drunk. You're an all right guy. Did I hurt anyone? No, you just hurt yourself. And then I started finding my drunk journals and started reading those because I wanted to find out who I was. For real. Because the only one that would know is the guy who was writing that it was me. Maybe not in the right frame of mind, but it was me. It's all messed up like this because I was hammered. I'm gonna die tonight. And, January 19th, 1993, last entry. And I was like, my God, it was like reading something that Stephen King wrote or something. It was bad. I never want to see this guy again.
So that's basically how he described it.
Yeah.
Like totally, like it just your life was just gone. Like you just have no memory of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Fortunately, also was his addiction to alcohol, which helped him a lot. He said it was like, I guess they just beat it out of me. It was like a switch went off.
Yeah, he didn't even remember what alcohol tasted like.
No, and he, to this day, works at a restaurant, has a bar, full function. He's like, I have no desire whatsoever.
How crazy is that? Do you think, to get off of just the story for a second, just listening to his story and how you guys met, the way he has come up with this world and his imagination, and we were talking about it before we got on the air, we're missing a lot of that, I feel, today as human beings, right? You think that's a bad thing?
Yeah, it is a bad thing. I think our focus in the education system, not having more art and free, and just our ability for free expression. I mean, even free expression in math or physics,
right,
is not rewarded today.
What causes us to lose that drive to just express, imagine, think about? Because going back to Mark for a second, like one of his dolls, he just said how beautiful she was, and that's his girlfriend, and and come on, man, like if we went back to when we were teens, like we had those same kind of thoughts. Might not have been about a doll, but there might have been an image or a girl that, a girl at school that we would imagine like she is, I'm the guy who's going to save the damsel in distress, whatever it is.
Sure.
Like we don't do that anymore. Like we grow up and we don't, and the question is, how do you bring that back?
I don't know. A lot of people sort of play with that in role playing in some games, or other manifestations of being another character. But
society would think that's probably strange or weird.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's the ego gets in the way. It's like you have this persona and this vision of people that you need to upkeep, and you can't just break out and play with dolls like we used to. Or
else, what are you gonna? People are gonna talk about you. You're gonna be judged. You're gonna be, But the thing that what I feel is, if we can just resurrect that portion of our lives that we were exposed to when we were kids, I think that would be an answer to just being a better community, being a better people. I mean, Look at how we're. You talked to me when we talked earlier today. You were like, State of Union's on today, and I was like, people indicate I don't think we even care about that, because I just feel like if we were just more if there were a lot more Marks,
Yeah.
our world would be a lot different. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
If that makes any sense. And then what you did with creating that that connection, that I got to know who he is. He's interesting to me. Right?
Yeah.
And we're missing a lot of that too.
We really are. And it's funny, I was talking to my wife about kind of what I was going to be talking about, and she's like, she was there. She was like, I think you knew there was a story there, and you've got a knack for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you knew there was more to this guy, and you trusted him, and he trusted you.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of some problems in our community is nobody really wants to take the first step and say, hey, what are you doing? This is I don't know why I like this, or looks like something cool you're doing.
Yeah.
You kind of sound like a freak.
Yeah.
I've always had that curiosity where I don't mind being called that freak, I guess.
Or being associated with them, because obviously look at the cool stuff that they're doing.
Absolutely. And
right?
I knew that the art would be a way for him to tell his story, for him to share his story, and for him to use his own creativity. But if it's just like, hey, here's a guy who plays with dolls and wears women's shoes, it's kind of how it's framed.
So Marwencol was a combination of several names.
Yeah. So when he got out of the hospital, he was living in this house. It's two women that he had sort of a crush on. So it's Mark is Damar, Wen is Wendy,
Yeah.
and then Colleen. These are women that were taken. He knew they were untouchable, but he would hang out and just chat with them, and very amicable.
And the more he got into the documentary, as well as they get into the movie, we see that his cast of dolls and friends, a lot of them were a female cast of people, right? And he said that I choose women because those are the only species that have never hurt me.
Yeah, that's true. He had been hurt in the past and has had crushes, and he just, as he explains it, he just loves the essence of women. He's like, they're just such a divine entity. He's a hopeless romantic.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's good. You don't find a lot of that these days either.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the way that he described, the dolls and, what they stood for. And he goes, this one has my, she has my heart. But this other doll, she could have my heart. You know what I mean? It was just like, it took you back to a certain point where you remembered you felt like that.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So you get experience to like the creativity he had when it came to what he loved, what he was scared of, what he hated. That was all being depicted within this fantasy world.
Sure.
I mean, am I safe to call it a fantasy world? Or?
Yeah, it's fine. One clarification is he was not detached from reality.
Right. That's why I wanted to clarify that.
That's
I didn't
fine.
want to disrespect.
Yeah, some people say living in fantasy, it could be taken the wrong way, but
Right.
he's completely aware of,
this is the world, and this is who I am,
Yeah.
and this is what's going on in the world, and I'm not detached from this.
Yeah, at 2:00 I got to go walk to the restaurant and make meatballs.
Right.
You know.
So, what was the world all about? What's
Well-
the main reason for the world then?
He was sort of a military buff. He was in the service. He was in
Yeah.
the Navy.
Yeah.
I believe it was the Navy, and I believe his granddad was in the service too.
Yeah.
And grew up like building, it's like model planes and things like that.
Sure.
But it was all about World War II era, this Belgian village, in the middle of nowhere, and they're all in fear of the Nazis coming in.
Yeah.
And so one constant that was always there, along with lots of ladies, was Mark was always there.
Yeah.
He had a character that was Hoagie. He was named Hoagie, and he was always there. He's always omnipresent. He's in the middle. He was in the bar. He's just sitting there with his teddy bear.
Yeah.
Or he's sitting up in the office looking down, making sure everything's cool. And he's in control. He sees everything. He knows what happens. So there's the obvious parallel of like he's recreating this mutiny that basically happened from Nazis being from his attack, and he's in control now.
So he takes some of his reality, brings it into this world,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
If that's what
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, so. But what I'm trying to figure out, and maybe you can help me because you spent quite a bit of time with him, is the balance between, I know that he's not, you know, he knows the difference, right? But was there a balance between how much of this world was made up versus how much of it actually he was bringing in from his actual real life?
From the beating?
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to say. I think he just sort of kind of had fun with blurring those lines. You know, like some of it was kind of blatant, like Nazis come in, just like those 5 guys come in, and instead of them having their way with Mark, or Hoagie, his 1/6 scale character, these women come out with 45s and just blow the Nazis away.
Right.
You know, it's just like the ultimate revenge over and over, like he's replaying that night.
Yeah.
Over and over again.
The realism of what he did with that particular, I mean, these dolls and the toys, like even you were saying the women would come in blazing, like even down to the miniature 1/6 scale guns, like you could cock them back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Fluidly. Like
Sure.
it wasn't like it was like the detail.
Yeah, it had the same action on the 45s. The clip could come out.
Right.
You could reload the clips.
Right.
Yeah.
So and he just dove himself into this space.
Yeah.
And just created this amazing story. Now the question is the story still going on? Is it still?
I don't know if I'm at liberty to say.
Okay.
But Marwencol has sort of started and stopped. Marwencol, in a sense, was for his therapy, and now that he feels like he's passed some of these milestones, these thresholds, that it's on to a new story.
Okay.
Usually set in the same kind of era. There's a couple of stories he shared with me about where he's like a film director.
Yeah.
Like he's in there and he's calling the shots.
Yeah.
And so it's like still a little control thing, but he's still very Mark and still very Hoagie. And of course he's got like a Scarlett Johansson doll now. And like all these beautiful dolls. I see where you're going with
Stepped
this.
it up a notch.
Yeah.
Stepped it up a notch. A couple designers designing for him.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Exactly.
Yeah.
So what's his tone like? Like, cause I've heard him. I mean, you guys just heard him. Like, is his tone pretty much the same? Like, does he get excited? Does he get, like, if you called him right now, it's like, hey, how you doing? Or is it, you know?
You know what? He does get excited. I called him right before the feature dropped.
Yeah.
And wanted to just get his reaction. Like, how are you feeling right now? Are you okay? And what are you expecting? And then I wanted to call him shortly after he saw it.
Right.
As well. But when I call him, usually it's just email, and I'll ask how he's doing. He always signs it off, your friend always Mark, and barrages me with photos like what he's working on. He's like, look at this. And so when you're on the phone with him, he gets so excited about telling you about what happened, like about a certain sequence he's got going on.
Right. Can you ever say, well, maybe instead of doing this, you should do this?
Oh, never.
You would never do that?
No.
It gets shot down.
No, I can't. As much as, I could give him plenty
Does he ask opinions or no? He just tells you?
No, he doesn't.
No, he just tells you.
Like, here's what happened.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm doing. Here's what I'm working on. And it's not like an arrogant, like this is my thing. Nobody else can tell me. But it kind of is his thing. It's his therapy still, and it's his story.
How does it get from meeting to art gallery to documentary to motion picture film?
About 8 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah, let's see. 8 years? No, probably more than that. It's probably more than that. So
do you see all of this before that, though? Do you see, like, I need to introduce him to some people because this is great. And then do you see, like, I mean, it could turn into this and this. And do you see it, or do you just go with the flow?
Oh yeah, I always knew that Steve Carell would be playing Mark.
I just knew it. You tell me the minute I met him. I saw it. I wrote the screen.
Yeah, as long as Andy Dick was going to play me.
Yeah, I'd be all right.
Or Seth Rogen.
All right.
No, like I said before, I've met some people like this, and I've documented them, and I've shared their story, and it's never gone to this scale. So when the piece ran in the magazine, it was well received. It's still kind of a smaller circulation. A lot of people don't see it, but I mean, it's not as It's not like New York Times yet.
Yeah.
Although he's been in New York Times now too.
Sure.
So an independent filmmaker in LA, Jeff Malmberg, saw a piece and wanted to just come check it out. And he was interested in just doing a short, like a 15, 20-minute short.
Right.
It could be cool, like biopic, like I'm doing all this corporate stuff. This would be a nice passion project.
Change.
And so he comes to meet him, and at this time I'd already moved back here. So I was right down there. And so he flew down. You know, we'd had some conversations, and this is when I told you before, I wanted to make sure that he was going to handle his story because of some of the nuances of his personality, that he wasn't going to turn him to a freak, you know, see him as a cartoon figure and to be taken seriously for his art.
Yeah.
And so he interviewed me, and that's actually, I'm interviewed down there in the documentary, and the documentary was really well received, did well at Sundance, and, you know, so lots of folks saw it, and it was on Netflix for a while. You know, it was streaming, and then around that time, Zemeckis saw it. So he saw it and said, "Oh, I've got to do something. This is an amazing story."
Right.
And you know, Zemeckis is known for, you know, Back to the Future. Like you could see like him totally going into this 1/6 scale world and like trying some really cool VFX.
Right.
You know, which I love too. But at the same time, like I just didn't know how you could really tell the same story in detail. Like the story's been told, and to Hollywood, it's like kind of my worst nightmare. I mean, to be honest,
just stay away from it, right?
I mean, the fact that you know there's more exposure is great, but you have to balance that with, geez, I mean, is he going to destroy this thing?
Is he going to destroy this thing? Is he going to destroy Mark? Is he
going to get too much attention? Because here's a guy who's been living, you know, in a tiny trailer and complete isolation, to all of a sudden getting people, the Guardian knocking on his door, finding out where he lives and trying to do like interviews with him.
Not a good idea.
Not a good idea.
Right.
So, and this is before even, you know, the whole Zemeckis thing happened. So this was about 2000, I want to say it was like 6 or 7 years ago. They contacted me and said that Universal wants to pick it up, and I have no ties to the documentary or anything, but you know, they did say we want to see if you would allow, you know, upon a contract for someone to play David Naugle, which I was like, wow, that's.
I got a couple people actually. I've been If Brad Pitt's not available, it's not happening.
Yeah, so that was kind of crazy, and they also reached out to. Tom, the guy that he lived with, you know, when he was out of the hospital as well, some of his neighbors, Todd Libby, the editor as well. And so he, and then they kind of sat there. And then basically the celebrity lawyer told me, like, you know, lots of directors and producers will buy rights and just kind of sit on it. It'll probably never go into production.
Right.
So I kind of forgot about it. And then probably a year and a half ago, I heard it was actually going into production. And I called Mark, and he's like, "Yeah, it's really happening."
Wow, was he excited?
He's very excited.
Oh, that's
he's
good.
Very excited.
That's good.
And the whole way, you know, I check in on him, and it's like, "You all right with this?" He's like, "Oh yeah, that's fantastic." He goes, "Zemeckis is awesome. He's going to do a great job."
Right.
I was like, "Oh, I hope so."
Right. Right. So, when you saw the final product, were you happy?
Well, yeah, I'm happy for Mark.
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm asking you.
Yeah, I'm very happy for Mark. I tell you what, when I saw the trailer, I've been following like all these production blogs. I even found like a Instagram account. Someone was like shooting on the scene, and they were like recreating his trailer like exact. I mean, he did some really cool stuff as far as VFX go, and then mapping it down to the 1/6 scale actors, and the actors actually doing performances.
Yeah.
Like Janelle Monáe and everybody else. It was amazing. It was incredible. But when I saw that trailer, I was like, whoa.
That's awesome. That was
mind
blowing.
I didn't know it was going to be an action film.
Right.
And then my wife and I were just kind of like, our jaw dropped. I was like, what? Wow. Okay, that's really different. But it kind of makes sense. You know, if you're going to have
different meaning, like the look on your different meaning, just different.
I just didn't know it was going to be so action packed.
Okay.
Especially knowing the documentary and knowing Mark. not that he was against any of the action or anything, or these beautiful women, these real actresses, actors
Right.
and actresses coming, to 1/6 scale. I'm sure it's pretty amazing too. I just didn't know it was going to be all that.
Yeah. No,
And
I
so
got
it kind of blew me away, and I was like, wow, I hope Mark's good with it. And so called him, and he was great. He loved it. He could not wait.
So, with the movie when it launched and well, let's start with the documentary.
Sure.
What would be the takeaway message that you would think anyone that would, that you would prompt to watch this documentary? What message do you think that they should walk away from it with?
One of the first things he said when he came to was that he forgave them. It's kind of about forgiveness. I don't want to sound too sappy, and it's not even from I don't know exactly what he meant, but I feel like he's really about love,
Yeah.
and he just knows that people have problems, and he knew he had a problem, and with drinking, and he just kind of felt like he'd been given another chance, and certainly didn't slow him down. Like, he still appreciates a nice pair of women's shoes that he wears in private, and it's kind of a hate crime too. You think about that too. So we all got to be forgiving, and this is a way that he's used creativity and his imagination, his engineering, and his physical attributes to like come back and rebuild himself.
Do you think his assailants, the punishment was enough for the assailants?
I don't know if I could say.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody knows the whole story. I mean,
Right.
it's a hate crime. It's vicious.
And I saw that, and that's why I'm asking, because when you put it against what really happened and what was actually done as far as punishment was concerned, like, you can't really. Like,
I know.
the weight of it is just, you know what I mean?
Sure. I mean, people get into trouble in bars all the time. I mean,
Yeah, but this is
I've been tossed around in the bar.
Yeah, but I mean, so have I. But I mean, that kind of that takes it to another.
But
another
he's
place.
just like a free soul. He's just like, who the hell cares if I'm wearing women's shoes? I mean, does it really matter? I mean,
I don't think it does.
It's 2000. It's the year 2000. Come on, guys. I
don't
mean,
think it does.
It's like, who cares?
Yeah.
And most everybody's probably like, yeah, Mark, you're right. You're fine. So you probably had some. He wasn't. I don't think he's wearing women's shoes that night. He wasn't. But after that, it's kind of when you sort of steer it as a hate crime, it changes the tone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it can't be acceptable.
That's something that's been, looming lately quite a bit. I don't know if you follow any other shows or movies. I mean, there's a show on Fox called Empire, and one of the main actors.
Oh, I just heard about that.
He just experienced that. He was just coming out of this restaurant, and these guys just came up, put a noose around his neck, really beat him up, poured bleach on him.
Some kind of acidic or something.
Yeah, bleach or something like that on him.
And the best thing you can do is just come right back and hey, you just made me that much more powerful.
I totally get that. You know what I mean? Which totally would tick him off.
I cannot comprehend. I just feel like that Mark was probably saying, it's the year 2000. Like, who the hell cares? And like, here we are 2019 now, and that crap's still going on.
Yeah, it's like, it really disgusts me, and really and automatically when just fast forwarding today when I heard his story and over the past couple of days, I thought about that guy that went through that same thing, and I was just like, when I heard what Mark's assailants got, I was just like, I think that the leader of the gang got like 5 years, and I was like, is that even remotely enough to teach somebody, something, But then again, you're right. Mark comes back, totally flips the script.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where it's just like, was it like, it's not a good thing, but was it a good thing essentially? Like, do you get the light from it? You know what I mean? Do you see the light at the end of the tunnel from it? He stopped drinking.
True. The good guy won.
Right.
And
which is what we always want.
Sure.
Which is what he wanted.
And reality of it, there's still Nazis out there, and they're still like, they're out of jail. I'm just saying,
that's a good way of putting it, though. You're right.
It's just kind of like it's your typical action movie. It's like, doom is still looming.
Yeah.
Like, everything seems fine in the world. Everything's great, but there's still like the looming. There's like the potential latent darkness that's around. So
You talk about Mark and taking pictures, but you walk into the studio and you got a camera in your hand.
yeah, I
Right.
was going to try to get a quick portrait of you as well.
Oh, rock on. Movie coming in 2025, guys.
Yeah, let me know who you want to play you. So
Idris Elba. I think I want to be a little English or Denzel.
okay,
No,
all right.
but anyway. But so, what do you like to take photos of?
Well, God, just about everything. I really kind of document my immediate surroundings, in still form and in video and
Okay.
writing stuff too. Journal entries.
All right. What do you do when you just shoot? You just shoot and capture and just put it to the side, or is there a tone? Like, are you creating your own Marwen somewhere that we need to be on the lookout for as our Decatur?
Oh, sure, yeah.
You know,
No, I'm not. Actually.
he said no, he's not.
I do have a ridiculous inventory of photographs, though. I shoot a lot,
Yeah.
and I don't always share,
Yeah.
which is not good. But I just have a
Reason
lot.
being?
I don't know. I feel like there's different applications and different reasons why I want to share certain things. For me, I feel like with Mark and some other people that I'm still documenting, that I enjoy their story. I want to be a quiet observer, and I have the tools to be able to help them share their story with photography and video and the web and being able to produce and share things. And I want to keep doing that.
Any other stories other than Mark that you could talk about?
Oh, absolutely.
That's what I want to hear.
Well,
Like what? Just tell, please. I mean, tell the stories because you're making connections that these stories are they're inspirational, right? It just
thanks.
gives us hope that we can all, say, what, I can imagine again. I can pick up my camera and just take pictures and express myself, and no way is the right or wrong way, right?
Sure.
Let my imagination run wild. So who else are you, like, what else and who else are you observing quietly?
Well, that's just it. It's, if you have a curiosity or desire to learn or some self-reflection or just to help somebody else tell their story, which you obviously are. I mean,
Right.
since September, to date, how many do you have now?
A lot. I don't know. We look at the wall of the mics,
Yeah,
and then we have
so-
some more. Yeah, we have a lot.
And
Yeah.
this was just, a funny little idea that
Yeah.
you probably had written down on a piece of paper.
I did.
Or like, it'd be cool. You know what I could do? I could just, in my house,
Yeah.
most people just don't take those necessary steps.
Yeah.
And with me, I will have a curiosity and I will usually follow through. And usually if my kids are in the car, they're like mortified. Like, Daddy, please do not talk to that man walking down the highway.
Like, you literally will do that.
I have, yeah.
You have. Seriously. Like, what do you say?
All right, so I don't want to make it sound like that I'm just
Some-
looking for characters
Right,
everywhere.
right.
And like I'm just stalking people. But I do, if I find someone interesting, I will stalk them in a way. But like, here's a perfect example I just came across when I was going through some files, is I have a photograph of an elderly gentleman. He's probably in his 90s. And he is just walking down the opposite direction of the exit ramp, walking from Grady, or actually from
Crawford Long.
from Crawford Lawn.
Crawford Long, yeah.
And he's walking on the wrong way of the exit ramp onto 7585.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I cannot believe there's so much traffic.
W2F.
And nobody is pulling over to help this man.
Yeah.
And I'm late for a meeting. So when I was working with an agency, I was like, you guys, I'm going to be late. And I just sent a photo. And
Yeah.
they're like, oh, he's
Off.
he's got a
being
new
cra-
friend.
Yeah,
He's got a new friend.
He's got
It's
a
like,
new
here's
pal.
this guy, he's like, nobody told me. They told me to walk this way, so I walked this way. And,
Right.
I'm glad you pulled over. I would have kept going down 75. So it's like, just pull over and talk to people. Help him out. He's a little scrambled, but I got him. I pointed them in the right direction, and he made his appointment.
I think we're too scared now these days. We're
Absolutely.
too guarded.
Oh, man, you can't turn on the news without, like, either someone getting shot or getting abducted or just being called a racist. And it's just like nobody wants to get out of their comfort zone and help for the sake of just helping humanity.
That's my question now. How do you get over that fear? Like, how do you get over the fear of, you decide to help somebody that's going
Sure.
on the wrong ramp, right?
Hey, trust me, not everybody I talk to
Is friendly.
sure. Like, what the hell you want? I was like, hey, just thought you needed a hand.
Right.
I know how to change my own tire. Thank you very much. All right, cool.
Right.
I just check and make sure you got everything.
You don't get offended
Peace.
by that.
I don't.
Okay. Most people would. And then it starts a whole nother altercation. I was trying to help you, and you're just blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. I don't, he's got his own or she's got his own they got their own problems, and I'm not here to judge. It's like, who knows, he could have just helped some other guy walking down the highway and he's late for a meeting or whatever, and he ran into some problems, and he probably will think about it. Like, I've said things and like 10 minutes later, like, man, why was I such an asshole to that guy? Like, he was just letting me in or whatever. So we all do that. But so there's a local guy, there's a local gentleman who I introduced myself to, and he lives by himself. Yeah. And I don't know if I want to say his name because I know a lot of people kind of know who he is.
You don't have to say his name.
But he's kind of a recluse, and I noticed him when I was walking my kids to school, and I noticed there were specific design changes that were happening to the exterior of his house. Okay. So it was a well-kept yard, nicely painted, cool, Decatur-style house. And then there would be like these one little graphic element, like a blue circle, be like leaning against like a perfectly straight pole. I was like, oh, that's cool. It's a just cool, neat graphic thing. I like to take pictures of graphic textures and things like that. And then a couple weeks later, be completely different. And then like one of the trees inside of his yard would be painted blue, and they'd change that. Wow. So it's not like this wacky yard, like, God, who's the hermit that lives there? Right. And like, what are they into? So I end up seeing him sitting outside, and I introduced myself. And very similar situation where he said, I've lived here since 1974, and no one has ever just walked up and said, hey, how you doing? What you doing?
It's true.
And, he sits out front on his little swinging bench or whatever. And I told him, I said, look, people have families. People are very guarded. It's just, we just don't live in this Norman Rockwellian world where we're all just sitting on the front porch. Yeah. And he's like, well, you know what? It used to be that way here. Because the reason why I got a house here is because it was diverse. It was racially diverse. There's socioeconomic diversity here. And I wanted to live here because it was not homogenized. Yeah. And now as prices go up, people build fences, and then they got to pay for these houses. So they go into their garages, and we never see anybody. So nobody ever walks around or talks to me.
We had the former city manager, Peggy Maris, in here actually right before she retired.
Oh, yeah.
And she talked about that, too. She talked about when Decatur was formed and what we wanted it to be, because she worked in the city for years, was this great place that this gentleman described. Yeah. And we all see that there's been a shift, sure, based on, like you said, what's going on. Everybody builds up their walls, and the prices are so sky high, only a certain amount of people can come in. Right. Housing becomes an issue, so on and so forth. You know what I mean? Absolutely. As you look around. But how do we take it back, though? Like, you're seeing life, and you have allowed yourself to see life from different perspectives, right? Mm-hmm. Just as you go from like this person's yard, like you were saying, and it changes. And listen, the only
meander around.
Listen, man,
looking for a kind.
Like, I'll just be honest with you. I do not do that kind of. I don't do those things. Like, if you came to me and said that was blue yesterday, I would say, what was blue? You know what I mean? Like, I just don't see life from that lens. But I realize I need to stop, smell the roses, and start doing that. Right?
Smell the roses and look at that blue tree.
Exactly.
Now, I'll admit it. My wife's kind of the same way. She's like, God, like, we can't go anywhere without you knowing exactly what's going on, or like all the characters. Like, we used to live over in East Atlanta, and like, I befriended all the characters that go up and down the street. Right. They're just like, they've got so much culture and so much cool. I mean, it's just like they've got great stories. And so this guy has an amazing story that I'm telling you about. Yeah. And he's been quietly creating these amazing abstract art pieces in his house for years and years and years.
Nobody knows about
it. He's from Augusta. He just looks like generic. He just looks like a kind of an older conservative man, plays golf, wears golf caps, rides his bike sometimes, but he's single, lives by himself, doesn't have family. And he's just like fell in love with abstract art. He's from Augusta. He was trained as a lawyer, practiced law for a little while, and then decided that he loved kind of drawing, so that he just dropped everything and started making abstract art.
So when you see this, what's your... Like, I don't know I don't know what to ask, or what. I don't want to give anything. I don't know. Like, when you see this, like, what do you want to take it? Like, where does your creative take it?
Well, I see it, and immediately I'm like, this is beautiful work. This is great.
Right.
And then the other side of me is like, here we go again.
Call up the wife.
I know.
Here's what we're gonna do,
Rachel.
No,
guess what?
Yeah, you'll never guess who I met.
Look who I brought home.
So do you like? Is the plan to show this to the world? Like, for you, like, is that what you're thinking when you meet a guy like this? Like, I got to show this to the world.
That's
like, this is amazing.
That's not my plan.
Okay.
But that's kind of what happened. So I contacted the same editor, this guy Todd. I'm like, hey, you're not gonna believe this.
Yeah.
He's like, don't tell me, it's a neighbor.
Yeah.
Actually, it is.
Yeah.
He lives like a mile from me, and I just showed him the art, and I said, these are all found objects. Like, his process is extremely slow. He just paints multiple passes. They're very geometric. They're really super bright colors. They're really like almost like pop op art. I mean, they're super saturated and mostly found materials. Like, he gets oops paint from Lowe's and Home Depot and builds his own frame, stretches his own canvas, and will do like these graphic arcs and circles and designs where he just does multiple passes, like the most arduous, obsessive process, and they're beautiful. So I share it with Todd.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, that's fantastic. I said, I'm looking for kind of a outliers type gallery, maybe I could connect him with. I don't want to, I'm busy, so whatever. He's like, well, why don't you do a piece for him on him for the magazine? So I did an interview. I brought my studio lights in his house, and I shot everything correct, nicely lit everything, and did a piece on him. And so for the release of the magazine, which they do yearly now, which I actually have a copy of here.
Oh, sweet.
That actual magazine. Okay. He said, why don't you send some of his work up? Like a couple of pieces, like some small pieces. Yeah. I was like, okay, that's a great idea. So it's in New York City, in the West Village.
Wow.
And I'm looking at like shipping, and he doesn't have money. He's on fixed income, and last thing I'm gonna do is like spend more of my money and my time. So, but I ended up doing just that, and he did not want to part with his pieces, so we rented a van and loaded it up with paintings and drove all the way to New York City.
Like a U-Haul?
Yeah.
Like straight up?
Like
that's awesome.
Enterprise van. Yeah.
That's cool.
And he didn't want to stay in any hotels because he wanted to just camp the whole way. So he brought his tent and a sleeping bag, and I brought a tent and a sleeping bag too.
Where'd you camp out?
He wanted to bring his dog as well, who's kind of an elderly dog. So I talked him out of not.
Where'd you camp out?
Not bringing the dog, and then
here it comes.
Because I drove the first 15 hours, I said, we gotta pull over and get a room. I'm sorry.
Okay. And
so we actually got a hotel room, and it was like $39, like a Days Inn or something. Yeah. And he's like, this is so nice. It's like there's 2 beds in this room, and there's a place for you to wash your hands. I was like, have you never slept in a hotel room before?
Right.
And it seems like he hadn't. So we made it to New York. He was there for the opening and for the reception of the magazine, which is great. Had a bunch of other artists, so there were other artists there. He got to talk to artists. I put a microphone on him, and he like got documentation of him talking to all these people, and so he's very happy.
You're changing lives, man. You are. Look at it.
I don't know.
You're glad. I mean, first of all, it's making you happy, which is great.
True.
It
does.
You're loving what you're doing. Because every time, like, we talk about it, like, you just light up. Which
really?
It's seriously, you change the life. You just, that's amazing.
Cool. That makes me happy you say that.
No, that's really, really gnarly that you do stuff like that.
Because everybody I've talked to are like, why are you taking this total stranger with all this?
No, I don't think. I mean, I think at some point, like, you have like this feeling, this calling to something that you just feel like I need to express it. It goes back to goes back to Mark. it's a synergy, man.
Yeah.
Energy. You know, we're all connected somehow to the other.
Sure.
And I feel like this, you know, this part of our minds, this right-brained creative, is the answer to us just being calmer, nicer, better people.
I think that's the only way we're going to continue to evolve.
You know,
if we get in touch with that.
Because it just seems like every time we have a conversation directed towards that, people just get very bubbly.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
The edge kind of rubs off, and you know, when you get into that space. Yeah. And one of the things that we talk about a lot is just, you know, you and I just raising kids in this neighborhood is just making sure that our kids see a lot of that.
Sure.
You know, and introducing them to that.
Yeah.
You know? You know, I always ask everybody this one question before they leave, you know, or before we wrap up or what have you. And that question is just, in this neighborhood that we all know and love, right? What do you think it takes for us to be better? We're always striving. I'm not saying we're not great, and I'm not saying that we don't have great things about us, right? But we're always moving forward to just be better, just be nicer, greater human beings. Like, what do you think it would take for us to do that? Just a little bit.
I think it all comes down to, don't let your kids play with balls at Caverna Coffee Shop.
Ever.
Inside the coffee shop.
Ever.
That's
and
it.
Don't bring your dog in there either.
I mean,
when he's trying to get in because he wants a latte. I saw that happen today, by the way. That dog would not. He was trying to get it. He wanted a 16-ounce latte.
Double soy, please.
Actually,
easy on the Splenda.
Almond milk. No soy.
Yes, soy
collecting.
Soy tears me up. I gotta do some almond.
You know.
No, I mean, you know, there's always going to be, everyone's complaining about, man, the old Decatur was so tight. It was just like, you know, there was like parties in the streets and closed, you know, you didn't have to get permits to have parties in the streets. Just pull your TV out. And, you know, I hear all these amazing stories, like our house, which was built in 1940 something. There used to be like ponies in the back.
Rock on.
So we put a couple of horses in the back.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
I'm like, man. He's like, oh, that's nothing. We used to continue to tell me other stories. But I think just keeping the dialogue open, like letting people know that like we're not here to take over, but also accepting, sounds cliche, but accepting change. Like, stuff's going to change. Things are going to get homogenized. Things are going to get sort of gentrified. You've got to be aware of your neighbors. Like, this person's been here a lot longer than you. You just don't build a fence without talking to them.
Right.
Sorry. That's just, you just don't move in and do that.
Right.
You keep the dialogue open. You see if you can help them out.
Yeah.
Things are going to change. Like, people always talking about Lower East Side. Oh, man, Lower East Side in the 90s was off the hook. Well, you know, in the 70s, it was pretty crazy, too. In the 50s, it was a whole nother crew. So it's kind of like things are always going to change. Let's just be mindful and be nice. Just don't be a asshole.
As an artiste, right? Videographer, photographer. You watching anything right now, like on Netflix or anything that we need to know about? That's like any documentaries that we need to be hip to that you really would want us to watch or see, or?
Wow, that's a good one. The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. My wife and I are almost through that. It's a Coen Brothers collection of shorts. It's not for children. It's not for the faint of heart. They're like just all about gratuitous violence. But it's a really cute little, it does a great job of weighing like some pretty serious, like frontierland Western violence with really adorable stories of the West.
Really?
Yeah.
What's that on right now? Where do I catch that?
I think that is, I think it's Netflix.
Netflix?
Yeah.
What about music? What do you listen to?
Music. That's a good point. You know, my relationship with music has changed so much. I used to be into all kinds of crazy stuff. And now my journey is all about just trying to find, like, sort of using that Spotify algorithm. Like, if you like this abstract, experimental 1940s piano artist, you're going to love this guy from the Netherlands. Right. Who was around the same era, and like, oh shit, that's good.
Never
that's
knew,
great.
Right?
Yeah, and then I'm like finding all this crazy stuff, and you know, it doesn't really, you know, fit in with the mix when we're having parties, but just like constantly trying to discover new stuff and make my mind wander a little bit.
Super Bowl was uneventful for you?
Yeah,
Didn't
I
really care?
Yeah.
You're not a Patriots fan? Don't like them?
Nah, I'm always like the underdog, and plus, like,
Come on, man. Come on, don't talk to me, man. Come on,
just
man.
like there's going to New York. It's like it's all about the Pats. It's
Right.
Pats.
Right. Right.
You just like it's like how we are with the Falcons. I do have an awesome photo.
No, we're not. We're not like that with the Falcons. No, I'm just
No,
kidding.
we're not. We're
Yeah.
really not. But do you remember over here on the corner, right at I probably can't say an address, right?
You could say the street. Yeah.
Right
okay.
down the street here, there were these guys that live right
On the corner?
almost on the corner.
Yeah.
They had these lawn bags out, and they spelled out Falcons.
Yeah.
They had, like,
They always put the construction paper on it. The black. They put the construction paper on it.
duct
Yeah.
tape, like nice serif duct
Yeah.
tape, sports letter said Falcons, and I got a photo of them just
Did you?
driving by, and they're like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, no, those guys, they would
blessed.
tailgate like right outside, and
Yeah.
they'd have their leaf bags and just spell out
Yeah.
die hard.
Totally.
Like that's what this neighborhood is totally about. Like
52-inch TV.
all day long, like at the back, like grilling out, like
Yeah.
real talk.
I love that stuff.
What's favorite spot in the neighborhood that you like to chow at?
Where I like to eat, I actually went to Son of a Bear tonight.
How amazing is that place?
Pretty good.
That's
yeah.
pretty cool. What'd you have?
I had the it's like this really spicy soup that comes out bubbling. It's the
Comes up bubbly.
it's
a little
like
hot.
Literally a rolling boil, with,
Yeah.
like a raw egg in it, and it was unbelievable. And my wife, she had like this cool vegetarian, like this mix, like a mixed pasta with vegetables.
They actually did that place justice, considering the Chinese Dragon was not.
I know,
Yeah.
and I was so excited about that Chinese Dragon or Double Dragon, whatever.
Double
it's
Dragon,
called.
whatever.
And
yeah.
I was pleasantly surprised tonight, and they've got an impressive cocktails list on the
No,
other
they
side.
do. They
so,
do.
Like, I was like, we just need to go get a bite to eat. My daughter's at home. She's 14. She doesn't want to be seen in public with me anymore.
Yeah.
So,
Welcome.
so we went to eat dinner by ourselves, and so it was cool. I'd like to, go check it out.
The charred, there's a charred baboli or something like that. It's
Yeah.
like charred beef or something. It's really good if you ever get a chance. I don't know if you eat meat,
I
but
do, yeah.
so that's what you like on the SoCo side. Do you ever go to what about the NoCo side? What are your favorite?
NoCo, I'm a big taqueria guy.
Okay.
Even with that line, my taco runs through my blood, and
So I'll tell you a funny story about taqueria, right?
yeah.
And this person, because I know she's listening, so we call taqueria, like we always say, like it's crack. It's so addicting,
Sure.
right? So we're so we had this saying that anytime we'd see him, we'd say, we're gonna go have crack tonight. So because it was just like code word, right?
Yeah.
But we'd say that amongst each other. So she saw us out in public one day, and she just pops her head into the store when she saw. She goes, "Are you guys gonna have crack tonight?" And everybody kind of like looked around, like my wife and I, like, "Oh, yes, we are actually. It's good crack."
Yeah.
We're
in line, aren't we?
Have you been to White Bull?
I haven't yet, and I
Yeah,
saw that you
yeah.
interviewed
Chef Pat, yeah.
Chef Pat.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you put some smoke on his
Oh,
little.
yeah, you like that, huh?
Nice.
Yeah, you like that,
your
huh?
attention to detail. It's not going unnoticed.
I dig that. Yeah,
I haven't
no.
been there. We've got some great friends, Mindy and Nate, who live right down near Taqueria, and they love that place. They can't get enough of it.
Man, maybe we should do something like Decatur story driven.
Yeah.
Like just fool
Right on.
around with it. You know
Sure.
what I'm saying?
Do you remember Atlanta Stories or
Yeah.
Atlanta Sounds?
Yeah.
Atlanta Sounds was great.
Like why can't we do something like that?
Yeah.
Like just fooling around. I'm talking hobby stuff. Like
No,
nothing, you know what I
absolutely.
mean? Just
Hey, I'm all about a passion project.
just do like a little passion project about the neighborhood,
Yeah.
something really cool. Like, the city got this, Great American City Award,
Oh,
like
yeah.
All American City Award.
Yeah.
Like, do we call it an All American? I don't know. I think it would be great to get like the kids involved and,
Sure.
do something cool like that.
Yeah.
Have movie night,
Yeah.
something. I don't know, photo night, whatever it is. How do you feel about Legacy Park? You know about that? The new. No, you don't know about the 75 acres that we acquired. It's going to be really
I didn't know it was called Legacy.
well, they're
Park.
calling it Legacy
You talking about
Park.
the Methodist?
Yeah.
Methodist Children's Home?
It's going to be like very art focused
Yes.
over there. I think you and your camera, once that's all done,
Yeah.
you're going to have a blast over there.
Yeah, I was worried that they were going to mow that down and put up a bunch of luxury lofts.
I don't think so.
Like the rest of Atlanta.
Not happening.
So I went over there and I photographed all those old buildings.
Did you?
Yeah, some of the old, homes. Before, I think it was between where, it was no longer a children's home, but just to capture some of the cool architecture. And it's just such a cool piece of land, too.
I think they're going to build on that, and it's
Yeah.
going to be very artistic,
Yep.
very conducive of like who we are and what we stand for. So I think that you're going to have a black. Actually, what kind of camera is that? Is that a Pentax?
That is a Sony.
Sony.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is that what you prefer shooting with? Or?
Yeah.
You do?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
I like a Sony camera.
Pull out my Canon and show
Yeah,
you
the
some of
Canon,
my skills.
I'd rather push a Sony than drive a Canon.
Yeah. Listen, man, this was a great conversation.
Yeah,
brother.
absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Where can people find you
Well,
if they're looking for you? Are you
Sure.
are you trying to be Bruce Wayne, like hide out? Like,
No, I'm trying to be legit. I mean, I'm always vacillating between these two identities, but for my commercial brand video things, I do that under R&D Studios. It's R&D Studios, so there's two D's, kind of awkward.com. And then davidnaugle.com is where I've actually been putting some documentary stuff. I'm trying to make that a little more
like your
or
blog?
art focus, and documentary and just some of the people that I follow and updates there.
So
we have lots of characters around here that I've been meeting, and some people are a little slower burned than others.
Yeah.
But I can't wait to share some of their stories with everybody around.
So on the davidnaugle.com, that's one thing. What are you working on? Can you talk about anything cool that's on the R&D side?
Yeah, I do. I come from a stills background. I went to photography school.
Yeah.
And then
Where'd you go to school?
I went to Atlanta College of Art
Okay.
for a little while, and there's also a school called Southeastern Center for the Arts, which turned into the school called Creative Circus. And then in the mid-'90s, I left and started just shooting, and I was doing lots of fine art stuff, some commercial work. And then I've also, fiddled around with lots of, technology. I've always been playing with, front-end web development and things like that, trying to mix up the mediums a little bit, figure out different ways to tell stories. So I'll work with agencies and work directly with brands to help them tell stories.
Tell stories.
Yeah.
Storytelling.
It's
a gift, man.
And I'm trying to some things are a little more corporate than others, look a little more stiff. I'd love for that perfect thing to be I could just find great creators that have a story to tell and somehow make a living doing that.
Yeah.
But so I'm working on that.
Good for you, man.
Thanks. I appreciate
Well, I'm
it.
looking forward to seeing you around the neighborhood and just seeing what you're up to and bothering you about doing this local passion project of
I'd
some
love to
sort.
help.
And
if you see me looking through your windows, don't
worry about it. It's cool.
Looking for a story.
Just tell my wife, don't worry. He's just looking for, he's just looking to be friends. Just go out.
Need a friend.
Yeah, just go take a picture and whatever. Welcome to Marwen is not out on DVD or it's not yet. It will be soon though.
It will be, yeah.
For those of you who haven't seen it yet.
And hopefully, more importantly, if you love that kind of stuff, please reach out and download or stream Marwencol.
Yeah.
Which is out of I think it's kind of forgot the name of the distributor right now. But if you do a search for Marwencol,
you'll find it
there.
Yeah. We before we close out, what we normally do too as well. It's funny because I always look at all of us having some bit of a Mark in us.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I, with him and the dolls and so on and so forth was his
Yep.
thing. And for me, you were saying the clips that you pull and, the audio clips. So I kind of develop stories with clips, right?
Sure, yeah.
Gerard and I were just actually talking about that yesterday because he was asking me, how do you come up with some of these clips and ideas? And I'm just Kanye West always said it, he sees sound. Right. I don't know if it sounds weird, but he just sees sound. So I said that, I can totally relate to that because I normally will hear something and see it in my head. Right.
Right.
So I'll play clips for people just to make them laugh, icebreakers and so on and so forth. So I'm going to play you a clip, see if it'll make you laugh.
Okay.
Right. I haven't played this in a while, G, so he can appreciate that. You know which one I'm going to play, right? So here's a clip for you. Tell me.
Question 2. Who would you rather spend the night with? A, your wife, or B?
B.
And the crowd goes by. There he is. He's laughing. A lot of people don't like that clip. That's one of my favorite clips. I love that clip. But anyway. But thank you, man. Thank you so much. And,
absolutely.
And the invitation is open, man. Whenever you just want to walk in, walk up, come in, sit down and talk, it's there.
Yeah,
you know.
And hey, let me throw this out there. You
Yeah.
know, as residents of Decatur, if you're concerned about an elderly person or someone that might be a shut-in that might need some help, you know, just knock on the door and say, "Hey, is everything okay?" They'll probably say, "Yeah, I'm fine," but you know,
Either yeah, I'm fine, come on in,
yeah.
or yeah, I'm fine, go away.
And if they have some cool abstract art, just give me a ring and I'll come help.
There
them,
you go.
Help them document and share it.
And I'll tell you what, you'll be surprised on the friendships that you can develop. Like we have some people around here that are elderly, and you know, I know some like their kids and so on and so forth. But I'll see them and I'll say, you know, "Hey, how are you?" And I remember the last time one of the ladies on one of the streets here, I had said to her, because I went to her son's like birthday party and she had made some really good casserole. And
Right.
when I say I killed it. And I told her, I was like, that casserole was amazing. You like, just let me know when you're gonna make one. I was totally kidding. Within a day,
Oh yeah.
I was like, you need to come pick up your casserole. I was like, are you serious?
You can't joke around like stuff like.
No, I mean, no, listen, first of all, it wasn't a joke, because I was really grateful that she made that for me.
Right.
I didn't want her to go through all the trouble of it, but you know what I mean? So I would totally agree with you. Definitely go check on them. Guys, it was a great conversation. Look forward to tomorrow, because tomorrow's going to be awesome. DJ Nabs is going to be in here, good friend of mine. Amazing musician, producer, DJ. We're going to talk about the history of music, hip-hop, and everything else right here in Atlanta, and he's going to be sitting in the hot seat, so I'm looking forward to it. And actually, he would be a great guy for you to know. You talk about some history.
Right on. Let's hear it.
He's definitely cool.
I love a good story.
So until tomorrow, guys, G, thank you so much. And we'll talk to you tomorrow right here on Decatur FM. See you guys. Bye.
Decatur FM. Decatur FM. Decatur.